Welcome back to another edition of DBSN Overtime. I'm JD Lowe.
And I'm Eli Baxton. We're back with another exciting week of some sports news. We're going to start out with the NBA once again. What happened in the standings this week?
Yep, a little bit of rearranging and a lot of staying the same in the standings. The Cavs still sit at top in the East with a record of 52-10, and they were the first team in the NBA this year to clinch a playoff spot. So nice job for the local team. And then second in the East is still the Celtics with a record of 44-18. And then in the West, the Thunder, they sit atop still with a record of 51-11. Followed closely by the Lakers with a record of 39-21.
Yeah, I don't think the top two in the East have changed for a very long time, but second in the West, that's changed rapidly. It was the Grizzlies last week, and it's now LeBron and Luka, the new like super team, the Lakers. And then this past week, some major scores we had was the Bucks. They played at home over the Nuggets and the defending MVP Nikola Jokic. 121-112 on Thursday, and then also on Thursday, the Lakers beat the Timberwolves 111-102, and then the Cavs, they beat the number 2 in the East, the Celtics, 123-116 in Boston. The Cavs were down a very significant amount early in the game, but Donovan Mitchell, probably their best player on the team, had a 41-point night to get the Cavs back in the game and have them win it. And then the Knicks, they traveled on the road to play the Grizzlies on Friday, and they won in a close one, 114-113. And then the LA Derby, LA rivalry, is the Clippers versus the Lakers. That happened on Friday and Sunday. On Friday, the Lakers won 106-102, and on Sunday, it was only a 2-point difference. It was 108-102, so the Lakers came out on top in both of those occasions. And then on Saturday, the Bucks, they handled the Mavericks 132-117. The Celtics, they beat the Nuggets 110-103. So the Nuggets kind of struggled the past week as they played some tough opponents. And then the Thunder, they came out on top over the Rockets 137-128. That was on Monday. The Pacers, they beat the Rockets 115-102 at home on Tuesday. The Warriors, they traveled on the road all the way across the country to face the New York Knicks, 114-102. They won that game on Tuesday. The Bucks, they were back in action. On Wednesday, they beat the Mavs by a whopping 30 points, 137-107. And then finally, the Thunder, they handled the Grizzlies 120-103 on Wednesday, which has led to the Grizzlies falling out from second in the West to now fourth in the West standings, which they'll still most likely make the playoffs, but not the games you want to see.
Yeah, and we also look ahead to another full week of NBA games, as tonight we have a game. The Knicks and the Lakers will play in Los Angeles. So the Lakers, they want to still hold that spot for second in the West. And the Knicks, they want to try to sneak up the ladder a little bit, try to get a little closer to the top as playoffs come. And the Grizzlies, they'll take on the Mavs on Friday, and that'll be home for the Mavericks. And then Saturday, the Lakers take on the Celtics, this time away. So that's another big game. Two teams at the top of their conferences. And then the Nuggets will take on the Thunder on Sunday. The Cavs will play the Bucks also on Sunday. And then starting the next week on Monday, the Nuggets will take on the Thunder. And then the following day on Tuesday, the Bucks will play the Pacers. And then 2 games will be next Wednesday as the Thunder take on the Celtics, and the Timberwolves will play the Nuggets.
That's right. Looking forward to the Celtics-Lakers game, a big rivalry in history. And it's looking like it's going to be a good game after the past few seasons. It's been pretty lopsided towards the Celtics, but it'll be a good one.
Yeah.
And then in MLS news, we have completed match day 2 over the weekend. To start out, Charlotte FC, they beat Atlanta United 2-0, or 2-0. It was a very exciting game with Charlotte having some new signings, same with Atlanta, and it was cool to see some 2 up-and-coming teams battle it out, where Charlotte eventually came out on top at home. And then Real Salt Lake, they beat the Seattle Sounders 2-0. Seattle Sounders looking like they're going to be a pretty good team with a bunch of crazy new signings, but they're just not clicking right now. And Real Salt Lake got a good win after their poor performance in match day 1. The New England Revs, they lost at home to the Columbus Crew 1-0. It was a very cold game in New England. It was snowing, it was windy, but the Crew came out on top. Red Bulls New York, they beat Nashville SC 2-0. And then Orlando SC, as they have continued the goal scoring, they have scored 4 goals this past game to Toronto FC's 2, and they came out on top at home. Philadelphia Union, same thing. They're scoring a lot of goals. Ty Baribo scored a hat trick in this game. It was 4-1. They played FC Cincinnati, who is atop the power rankings in the MLS, but they have now fallen after that loss. Chicago Fire, they drew 2-2 with DC United after a late score in that game to tie the game. It was a bicycle kick. It was a very exciting one to watch. And then Sporting KC, they fell to San Jose Earthquakes 1-2 at home. Minnesota United, they beat CF Montreal 1-0. Colorado Rapids and FC Dallas tied 3-3 with a high-scoring affair there. LAFC, they won 1-0 over New York City FC. Portland Timbers, they beat Austin FC 1-0 after their loss to begin the season. So it was a good turnaround for them. San Diego FC, after they upset the defending champions, the LA Galaxy, they drew 0-0 with St. Louis SC over the weekend. Vancouver Whitecaps, they beat LA Galaxy, who is 0-2 on the season. They have not won a game or drawn. They've just lost. They won 2-1 at home. And then the Houston Dynamo, they fell to Inter Miami at home 1-4 with a Messi-less Miami. Suarez kind of carried the team with 1 goal and 3 assists, and Inter Miami still looks like a force to be reckoned with. And then some big games coming up in this next match day is Seattle Sounders. They'll play on LAFC. It'll be a derby again. After last year, they both played in the first match day to open the season, and LAFC came out on top. Then Atlanta United, they host Red Bulls New York, and then Inter Miami, they'll play the new-look Charlotte FC at home. And then across the pond again, we're going to the UEFA Champions League. Round of 16, legs 1 and 2 begin March 4th, which they started already. Club Brugge, they fell to Aston Villa 1-3. Real Madrid, they beat Atletico Madrid in a derby 2-1. PSV, they lost to Arsenal by a whopping score of 1-7. Dortmund and LOSC, they tied 1-1. Feyenoord, they fell to Inter Miami 2-0. Bayern Munich, they beat Bayern Leverkusen, another derby, 3-0. Benfica lost to Barcelona 0-1. And PSG, they lost to Liverpool 0-1 as well. That was all the first legs, and the second legs will be coming up soon. And then in CONCACAF, we've got the round of 16, legs 1 of 2 have started on March 4th, 5th, and some to come on the 6th. LAFC, they beat the Columbus Crew 3-0. Tigres, they drew 1-1 with FC Cincinnati. Pumas, they beat LD 2-0. LA Galaxy, they lost once more to Herediano 1-0. Cruz Azul and Seattle Sounders, they both tied 0-0. Monterrey, they beat the Vancouver Whitecaps 1-1. Club America lost to Chivas Guadalajara 0-1. And then Inter Miami and Cavalier played tonight at 8 p.m.
Yeah, thanks, Eli. Very busy right now in the soccer world, so thanks for all those updates. And we'll now turn to Worldwide Wacky Sports with John.
Wrestball is an innovative hybrid sport that combines the elements of wrestling and basketball, creating a dynamic and engaging athletic experience. Unlike traditional basketball, players are allowed to use wrestling moves to gain possession of the ball. The game is played on a standard basketball court, but with modified rules to incorporate physical grappling.
Thank you, John. Never heard of that one before. It's a very interesting sport, to say the least. And now we turn to college basketball. We had another busy week last week, a little bit more normal, at least in the first half of the week, than what it was 2 weeks ago, what we were covering last week on Overtime, with a lot of upsets. A little bit more regular as to who was beating who. And to start out, Auburn, the number 1 team, they handedly took down Kentucky 94-78. And then Florida, the number 3 team, they also handedly took down Texas A&M by a score of 89-70. Tennessee, they took down Alabama in just a one-score game, 79-76 was the score. And then Iowa State, they took down Arizona, and they would win by a score of 84-67. Vanderbilt, this was an upset. Vanderbilt, they won 97-93 over number 14 ranked Mizzou. So a great game for Vanderbilt. And then Michigan State, they took down Wisconsin 71-62. Michigan, they took down Illinois by by a score of, they
Yeah.
fell to Illinois by a score of 73 to 93. So that was an upset as Michigan was ranked number 15, Illinois unranked at that time. So great job by Illinois. And then Auburn, their following game, they fell. And this was a big upset as Texas A&M, the number 22 ranked team, they won 83 to 72. That's pretty big again for the Auburn, who they won by a pretty wide margin against Kentucky just a few days earlier. So a great job by Texas A&M to get it done. And then BYU, they took down Iowa State, another upset there, and they won 88 to 85. Texas, they took down Mississippi State, and another upset, kind of starting to sound like last week. And they won 87 to 82, and this was in OT. So one that came down to the wire, but very good job there by Texas. And then Maryland, they took down Michigan, and they won 71 to 65. Florida, they would take down Alabama by a score of 99 to 94. Tennessee, they would fall to Ole Miss, 78 to 76. Ole Miss unranked, Tennessee ranked number 4. So maybe another week of the upsets there, as this has been a lot of surprising games so far. And then Missouri, they fell to Oklahoma. Missouri ranked number 15 at that time. Oklahoma unranked. Oklahoma beating them 96 to 84. And then UConn, they would beat number 20 ranked Marquette by a score of 72 to 66. And UConn unranked. They'll still likely find a way into the playoffs. But still, a great job by them to take down a ranked team as they were unranked at that time.
Yeah, well, it is March, so March Madness is around the corner, and we've got already showing some hectic signs, and looks like it's going to be another fun March Madness once again. And then we only got a few picks of the week this week because the season's coming to a close. It's the final week before we get into the conference championships. We're going to start out with the number 6 ranked St. John's. They're heading to the number 20 ranked Marquette after Marquette's loss. What do you have for this one?
I got St. John's in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with this. Rick Pitino is looking like he's carrying his squad really well. And I think he's going to not only win this game, but I think he's going to make a good run in the Big East tournament and in March Madness. And then Kentucky, after their falling loss, they're going to head to Missouri, who's also fallen apart this season. Who do you have for this one?
I'll have to go with Kentucky. I think Missouri is just a little bit too much in a little bit of a slow streak right now. I think Kentucky will convert on that.
I'm going to agree with this one. And then 7, Alabama. They're going to head to their rival Auburn after they're going to have a rematch from just a couple weeks ago. I'm going to take Auburn in this one, even though they lost. I still think they're going to get it done. I think they're going to bounce back, and since they're at home this time, I think they're going to beat Alabama at home and on the road.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Auburn's still a powerhouse, and whether or not they lost, it doesn't diminish the skill that they have. So I'll go with Auburn.
Yeah, and then number 17 ranked Michigan Wolverines. They're going to head on the road to play the number 8 ranked Michigan State Spartans. They already played once this year, and Michigan State came out on top. That was in Ann Arbor, and I'm going to take Michigan State in this one. They're at home at East Lansing, and I think they're just going to win this one again.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think if they can get it done in Ann Arbor, they can get it done in East Lansing for sure. So I'll go with Michigan State.
Yep. And now it's conference championship week, and we're going to start out with Atlantic Sun on March 4th. And then some bigger ones. We got the Big 12. 12 starts on March 12th, and the championship is on March 16th. The ACC also starts on March 12th, and championship is on the 16th. Same with the Big East, except it starts just one day later. It's on March 13th. Championship is still on March 16th. The SEC, they'll start a little later than the ACC and the Big 12, just a day later. They'll start on March 13th as well, but their championship is on March 17th. The Big 10, they'll also start on the 13th, and they will end it on the 17th. So it's going to be exciting. And then we get into March Madness.
Yeah, this is the fun time of year for not just basketball fans, but everybody seems to tune in for March Madness. So very excited to get going. And the NHL season, it's also coming to a close relatively soon here, as a trade deadline usually marks pretty much the last bit of the year, and that's March 7th. So coming up quickly, March 7th at 12 p.m. So lots of key pieces who are on the chopping block look like they could be traded. Just last night, former Blue Jacket Oliver Bjorkstrand traded to the Tampa Bay Lightning from the Seattle Kraken. So that's a pretty big piece for Seattle. They're a struggling team right now, and to lose somebody like him, definitely not going to help out their core. But for a team like Tampa, they're on an 8-game winning streak right now, so he could be a nice piece there for them. Spencer Knight, this was not at the trade deadline, but he was recently traded. A lot of teams like to make moves just maybe a few days before, so he was one of those, and he was traded from Florida to Chicago. Chicago, a struggling team right now in Florida, the last year's Stanley Cup winners, so two very different teams in very different situations, and Chicago has not had much help in net, so they looked to get Spencer Knight. In his first game, he showed what he was about, as he stopped 41 of 42 shots in a 5-1 win, and just goes to show these teams on trade deadline night, if you can get a big piece like that, what it can do to reignite your team and maybe give you a little bit more hope down the playoff stretch. And in Columbus news, the Blue Jackets, they took down the Red Wings in a very big and very important Stadium Series game last Saturday night. It was a close one, came down to the wire. Blue Jackets ended up winning with an empty netter 4-2. And that was a very important, not just because of the situation with being an outdoor game, being Columbus' first outdoor game, but also the Red Wings, they followed close behind Columbus in the standings. They were two teams fighting for a wild card spot, and because of that game, Blue Jackets pulled ahead, and they now sit atop the Eastern Conference wild card spot. So if the season were to end right now, the Blue Jackets would be in a playoff spot, and the Red Wings would no longer be after their loss. So great stuff by the Blue Jackets, and a very fun one. It was a cold night, but it was a really fun game. Lots of celebrities came out to the game. Lots of fans worldwide tuning in. So it's a special thing for Columbus.
Yeah. And then we're going to send it to Alex with This Week in Sports, as he's going to talk about Caitlin Clark breaking the NCAA scoring record.
This Week in Sports, March 3rd. March 3rd, 2024, current Indiana Fever guard and former Iowa Hawkeye Caitlin Clark broke the all-time NCAA scoring record, passing Pistol Pete Maravich with 3,667 points. This came weeks after Clark passed Washington Husky alum Kelsey Plum for the NCAA all-time women's scoring record. Just a year prior, Detroit Mercy's Antoine Davis came up 3 points shy of breaking Pete Maravich's record. But it was destined that Clark was going to be the one to break the seal. Coming into the late season matchup against the number 2 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes, Clark needed just 17 points to claim the title. With less than a second left to play in the first half, Clark was sent to the free throw line with a chance at history.
For the record, she ties it with that one. This for college basketball history.
Thank you, Alex. And with that, we're going to talk about the PGA Tour now. Joe Highsmith, another new winner. He won the Cognizant Classic in the Palm Beaches just this last week. But we're going to look forward to the Arnold Palmer Invitational this week, presented by MasterCard. It's one of their signature events on the PGA Tour, which meaning the purse will be higher. It's a total of $20 million. Scotty Scheffler, the world number 1 right now, he won last year and looks to defend his title and get his first win on the season. So it'd be a good one. It's a very fun one to watch. And then those who did not qualify to the signature event will be playing in the Puerto Rico Open if they choose to. And then in indoor golf, we've got the TGL playoffs coming up. But to start out the final week, LAGC, they beat the Bay Golf Club 5-3. That was for the number 1 seed in the playoffs. And then Boston Common, they needed to beat the New York Golf Club in their final match, but they did not. And New York Golf Club came out on top 10-6, and they claimed their spot in the TGL playoffs. And then Jupiter Lynx, they struggled, and they got destroyed by Atlanta Drive 1-9. And then in these playoffs, we've only got 3 more matches in the TGL playoffs. To start out, we've got New York Golf Club taking on LAGC on March 17th at 7 p.m. That's the 1 and 4 seed playing each other. And then to close out the first round, we've got Atlanta Drive. They're taking on the Bay Golf Club on March 18th, just a day later at 7 p.m.
Yeah, thank you, Eli, for that update on golf. And we will not be sending it to Ian now due to little bit of technical difficulty, so we won't have an Ohio Sports Roundup.
Thanks, guys. This week in Ohio sports, we got the Blue Jackets with a pair of away games as they face the Florida Panthers tonight at 7. Then on Sunday, the Jackets head to New York to take on the Rangers at 6. The Cavs, meanwhile, defeated the Heat 112-107 last night, becoming the first team to clinch a playoff spot in the NBA. Tomorrow night at 7, the Cavs take on the Hornets in Charlotte before heading to Milwaukee to play the Bucks at 8. Saturday afternoon, the Crew faced the Houston Dynamo at Lower.com Field at 2:30 as the Crew looked to rebound after a loss to LAFC in the CONCACAF Champions Cup in the midweek. On Saturday at 3:45 on CBS, the Ohio State men's basketball team takes on the Indiana Hoosiers at Assembly Hall in their last regular season game, as the Buckeyes look to sneak their way into March Madness. And finally, the Ohio State women's basketball team competes in the Big Ten tournament tomorrow against a to-be-determined opponent. That's it for this week's Ohio Sports Roundup. This has been Ian Miller, and now let's send it back to JD and Eli.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another edition of DBSN Overtime. And I'm JD Lowe. We'll see you next week.
And I'm Eli Baxter, and see you next week, yeah?
Yeah.